Over 40? These are the 9 main reasons your legs are not growing. Reason number 1, neglecting cardiovascular conditioning. One mistake I see many people make is thinking that leg training is purely a weightlifting matter, all about load and more load, and that running, cycling, or rowing have nothing to do with muscle hypertrophy. But that separation between cardiovascular conditioning and muscle growth is one of the biggest things holding back your leg development after 40. When your cardiovascular system is weak, your ability to sustain longer sets, maintain intensity between exercises, and recover quickly within the workout itself drops significantly. That means you reach the 3rd or 4th set of squats already out of breath, unable to maintain proper form, or generate the muscle recruitment needed to truly stimulate hypertrophy. The result is a workout that feels hard because of fatigue, but in practice delivers very little real stimulus for growth. Research in exercise physiology shows that practitioners with better aerobic capacity recover more quickly between sets and are able to maintain higher training volume throughout the session, which translates over the course of months into greater accumulated stimulus for the legs. This becomes even more important after 40, when cardiovascular capacity tends to naturally decline if it is not trained, and recovery between sets is no longer as fast as it used to be. The good news is that you do not need to become a marathon runner to fix this. Including 2 to 3 weekly sessions of 30 minutes of moderate cardio, such as incline walking, cycling, or rowing, is already enough to improve your recovery capacity within leg training. You will notice the difference when you find yourself completing all the planned sets while maintaining intensity through the last rep, instead of feeling like you are just surviving the workout. Reason number 2, insufficient frequency. To understand this mistake, think of it this way. If you only train legs once a week, you are giving your body a single large stimulus, followed by several days with no relevant muscle recruitment for that muscle group. And that is exactly where one of the biggest barriers to your progress lies. The quadriceps, hamstrings, and gluteus maximus are among the largest muscle groups in the body, and large muscles benefit from more frequent stimuli to keep protein synthesis elevated throughout the week. Studies comparing the same total training volume split across 1, 2, or 3 weekly sessions have consistently shown better hypertrophy results as frequency increased up to a certain point. A common mistake is thinking that training legs twice a week means doubling the volume or repeating the same exhausting workout twice. In practice, the ideal approach is to divide the total volume you already do into 2 sessions. One with more focus on the quadriceps, such as squats and leg press, and another focused on the hamstrings and gluteus maximus, such as stiff leg deadlifts and leg curls. This split is also gentler on your joints, since it avoids concentrating an enormous amount of load in a single day, something the body over 40 feels much more acutely. If you currently train legs once a week, start by adding a second shorter session with fewer exercises, and observe how that changes your progress over the coming months. A simple way to monitor this transition is to pay attention to how the trained area responds on the day of the second session. If there is still significant muscle soreness, reduce the volume of that workout a little before thinking about increasing frequency even further. Reason number 3, insufficient rest. Remember that hypertrophy does not happen during training. It happens during recovery. And that is precisely the detail that many people forget when it comes to legs. Leg training involves some of the largest muscle groups in the body, which means greater energy expenditure, greater muscle damage, and consequently, a greater need for recovery compared to smaller groups like biceps or calves. Training legs hard again before recovery is complete is like trying to keep building on a foundation that has not yet fully set. After 40, the production of certain hormones related to muscle recovery naturally decreases, which makes adequate rest even more important than it was in your younger years. This does not mean you have gotten weaker. It simply means your body needs a little more time between heavy leg stimuli. generally somewhere between 48 and 72 hours in most cases. Beyond rest between sessions, sleep is another pillar that is frequently overlooked. It is during deep sleep that much of the release of hormones related to recovery and muscle growth takes place. Consistently sleeping fewer than 6 hours per night can seriously compromise your results, even if your training itself is perfect. The practical recommendation here is straightforward. Prioritize 7 to 9 hours of sleep per night whenever possible, and respect at least 48 hours between 2 heavy sessions targeting the same leg muscle groups. If you notice persistent soreness, a drop in performance, or excessive fatigue, that is a sign that rest was not sufficient, and it is worth reducing the volume of the next session rather than simply skipping the workout or pushing through with the same planned load. Reason number 4, ignoring the eccentric phase of the movement. What many people do not know is that the eccentric phase of the movement, the part where the muscle lengthens under load, such as the descent of a squat or the controlled lowering in a leg extension, accounts for between 40 and 50% of the hypertrophy potential of any exercise. And yet, it is the most neglected part of leg training. This happens because in the rush of the gym, most people focus all their attention and effort on the concentric phase, the upward push, the most visible and most intense effort, and let the eccentric phase happen quickly and without control, almost as if it were just the way back before the next rep. The problem is that the eccentric phase generates a specific type of muscle damage that is highly favorable to growth, far more so than the concentric phase alone. Ignoring this phase means giving up almost half of the available stimulus in every set you do. To fix this, consciously control the descent in exercises like squats, leg press, and leg extensions. Instead of lowering in 1 second, try taking 3 to 4 seconds through that phase, feeling the muscle working under tension throughout the entire range. You will notice the exercise becomes noticeably harder, even using the same weight as always. And that is a good sign you are finally putting that phase to work in your favor. A common mistake here is compensating for the slower eccentric phase by reducing the load too much. The ideal is to adjust the weight until you find a balance where you can control the descent without losing your technique or dropping the load excessively. A practical way to feel the difference is to choose just one leg exercise to apply this slower descent to over the next few weeks. Then gradually extend that same care to your other movements. Reason number 5, inadequate footwear. The beauty of this topic is that it is one of the simplest details to fix, and at the same time, one of the most ignored. Many people spend months studying the best training split, the best load progression, and then go to train legs using the same soft cushioned running shoes they wear for a walk in the park on a Sunday morning. The problem is that running shoes are designed to absorb impact and give way under the foot, which is exactly the opposite of what you need in exercises like squats, leg press, or lunges. A very soft sole reduces your base of support, impairs proprioception, and causes part of the force generated by your legs to be lost in the compression of the shoe, rather than being efficiently transferred to the bar or the machine. This also compromises the stability of your ankle and knee stabilizers during the movement, which after 40 deserves even more attention, since any extra instability is an open invitation to unnecessary joint discomfort. A common mistake is assuming that any athletic shoe works for any activity. In practice, for weighted leg exercises, the ideal is to use a shoe with a firm and as flat a sole as possible, such as shoes specifically designed for weightlifting or flat-soled shoes. Training barefoot or in socks only in safe and appropriate environments for doing so. If you feel like you are losing balance at the bottom of a squat, or that your foot sinks during the leg press, the culprit might not be your technique at all, but rather the shoes you are wearing at that very moment. Before we continue, do not forget to subscribe to the channel and turn on the notification bell. Having consistent access to science-based information is what will help you make progress safely and sustainably in the world of exercise. Reason number 6, lack of angle variation and unilateral exercises. When you only include bilateral exercises and always the same working angle in your leg routine, you stop stimulating entire portions of muscle, and you also allow small imbalances between the right and left sides of the body to grow silently over the years. The hamstrings, for example, are a muscle group that is already often neglected compared to the quadriceps. And when you never vary the working angle, whether in the leg curl or the stiff leg deadlift, you end up always training the same range of motion and recruiting the same muscle fibers, leaving other portions poorly stimulated. The same applies to unilateral exercises performed one leg at a time, such as lunges, Bulgarian split squats, or single leg squats. These exercises demand more from your stabilizers, improve proprioception, and most importantly, they reveal and correct strength differences between the two sides of the body that bilateral exercises like the traditional squat can mask for years. I have observed that practitioners who add unilateral variations to their routine report less knee and hip discomfort over time, most likely because the stabilizing muscles become stronger and more balanced on both sides. The practical recommendation is simple. Include at least one unilateral exercise per leg session, and periodically alternate the angles of your main exercises, such as foot position on the leg press or torso inclination in the squat. Start with lighter loads on unilateral exercises until you have mastered the balance, and progress by increasing reps before increasing the load. It is also worth rotating each training cycle which unilateral variation you prioritize, preventing the body from always adapting to the same movement pattern. Reason number 7, lack of range of motion. This mistake severely undermines your results. Training with a reduced range of motion, doing partial reps on squats, leg press, or leg extensions delivers to the muscle only a fraction of the stimulus it could receive. Studies comparing full range of motion training with partial range of motion training on the same leg exercises have consistently found superior strength and hypertrophy gains in the group that use the full range, especially in the quadriceps and gluteus maximus. This happens because the full range recruits the muscle in positions of greater stretch, generating more mechanical tension and more controlled muscle damage, two of the main known triggers for muscle growth. When you cut the squat descent in half, you are literally cutting in half part of the stimulus available in that rep. A common mistake is reducing the range of motion without realizing it, simply because the load has become too heavy to control through the full range. In that case, ego ends up winning over real results. To fix this, reduce the load until you can perform the full movement with control, lowering the squat until at least the point where your hips are level with your knees, or even deeper if your mobility allows it comfortably. After 40, working on ankle and hip mobility alongside your training can help a great deal in reaching that range of motion safely. You will know you are doing it right when you feel a genuine stretch in the muscle at the lowest point of the movement, and not just a slight discomfort in the middle of the range. If your mobility does not yet allow a full range of motion today, do not force it all at once. Progress gradually, gaining a few extra inches of depth each week. Reason number 8, training legs without intensity because it is uncomfortable. Let us be honest here. Leg training hurts, burns, and fatigues you in a way that no other muscle group typically does. And it is not uncommon for a person to start quietly dialing back the intensity just to make the workout a little more bearable, swapping that last difficult set for one more comfortable rep before putting the weight away. The problem is that hypertrophy depends on a minimum level of effort, and training with too much margin. Always stopping well short of muscular failure simply does not generate the muscle recruitment needed to signal to the body that those muscles need to grow. The burning discomfort, the heavy breathing, and the fatigue in the final reps are not unwanted side effects of leg training. They are, in large part, the very reason the stimulus works. This does not mean you need to train to complete failure every set, especially after 40, when the body no longer recovers from extreme efforts as quickly as it once did. But there is an enormous difference between training with intelligence and training while avoiding discomfort. A practical way to calibrate this is to use the concept of reps in reserve, estimating how many more reps you could perform before failing. For most leg sets, finishing with 1 to 3 reps in reserve is a good balance between sufficient intensity and joint safety. If you notice you are always finishing leg workouts feeling like you could have done much more, that is a clear sign that the real intensity fell below what is necessary to drive progress. One alternative that helps a great deal is saving the last set of each main exercise to push for that higher level of effort, keeping the earlier sets a bit more comfortable. Reason number 9, not keeping a record of your workouts and progress. What many people do not know is that progressive overload does not simply mean adding more weight to the bar every week. It means gradually and measurably increasing any variable of training, whether that is load, reps, sets, or time under tension. And it is practically impossible to apply true progressive overload without knowing exactly what you did in your last session. Without a record, leg training becomes a repetition of vague feelings. You walk into the gym, try to roughly remember what you used last time, and frequently end up repeating the same load, the same sets, and the same reps for weeks or even months on end without realizing you have stagnated. Practitioners who keep some form of record, whether in an app, a spreadsheet, or even a simple notebook, can clearly visualize their progress over time. And this works as one of the greatest factors for motivation and training adjustment that exists. When you see written down that you went from 8 to 12 reps in a given exercise over 2 months, it becomes much easier to trust the process, even on the days when the mirror shows no change at all. The practical recommendation here is simple. Write down at every leg training session the exercise, the load used, the sets, and the reps performed. Review that record before each following session and aim, whenever possible, to slightly surpass what was done last time, whether in load, in reps, or by reducing the rest interval between sets. This small habit, almost bureaucratic in nature, is one of the things that most separates those who make consistent progress after 40 from those who train hard but always seem to be in the same place. If you enjoyed this, and also want to see an intense leg workout for people over 40, using only dumbbells, we have a video appearing on screen right now showing each of those exercises in detail. It is science-based and designed with the specific conditions of the body at this age as its main guidelines, so make sure you check it out. Thank you for watching all the way through, and may God bless you, my friend.